What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our semi-final team builder here for the NCL Zebstrika, taking on Stu and the Toronto Trevenants, who managed to defeat my Kryptonite in Hamu and the Helsinki Heat. So big ups to Stu for being able to just take him out. I do know the finalist from the other side of the bracket that has made it over, but I'll talk about that at the end of the battle if we win or if we lose, whatever. Don't want to stress about that. Don't want you guys to stress about that. So we are taking on Stu, who we did not play in the regular season. He would have been my other choice besides Joey or Aaron. So luckily for me, I get to play quarters and semis against someone who I haven't played this season already, which is kind of cool because there's only 3 people that I dodged, and it was Hamu. I could have actually ended up playing 3 if Hamu had... No, I couldn't have ended up playing 3, actually. That wouldn't have been a thing. But yeah, all 3 of the people that I didn't play made playoffs, so take that as you will. Now, Stu's team consists of Zapdos, Mimikyu, Greninja, Cobalion, Magmortar, Ariados, Megalodios, Donphan, Snorlax, Empoleon, and Shaman. Priority options in the Mimikyu with Shadow Sneak, Greninja with Shadow Sneak and Water Shuriken, Magmortar with Mach Punch, Ariados with Sucker Punch, and Donphan with Ice Shard, as well as Empoleon with Aqua Jet, but not as prevalent there. Hazard setting in the Greninja with Spikes and Toxic Spikes, Cobalion with Rocks, Ariados with Sticky Web and Toxic Spikes, Donphan with Rocks and Empoleon with Rocks. And then removal options, the Zapdos with Defog, Megalodios with Defog, Donphan with Rapid Spin, and Empoleon with Defog, and no 4x weaknesses to be found on his team. This is a very me team. I'm very, very comfortable with both Mimikyu and Zapdos, and Greninja and Donphan to a larger extent as well. But some things I noticed about this team is that he's got a lot of stuff that would probably want to come here. And there's some stuff that I think I can reasonably count out entirely. So, first thing that I'm counting out entirely, which may or may not be a mistake, but I don't think that this is very good against my team. It only has one function against me. Like, there's only a specific Pokemon that it would check, and it is weak to pretty much the rest of my draft, and that's Shaman. So, the only thing that I think that he would ever bring Shaman for is to sit on top of Rotom-Wash. That's the only thing it can do even remotely well, is beat Rotom-Wash 1v1. Darmanitan beats it, Heracross beats it, Celesteela beats it, Kyurem-Black beats it. Pretty much all of the core of my offense just absolutely destroys Shaman, and I think it's a very bad bring against me. So I don't think it's coming. I don't think Donphan is coming either. Kyurem-Black just like goes through Sturdy with Ice Beam and OHKOs it pretty much every time. Rotom-Wash beats it. Superior beats it, Celesteela beats it, like there's a wide variety of things. It would be his rocker if it does show up. That's pretty much the only reason I would see Donphan coming. Ariados, I think, has a niche, but also probably isn't coming. My offense kind of just like steamrolls it, but if he just wants to use it as like a suicide lead, then by all means. The issue for him is that I have a superior, so giving me a speed boost with webs doesn't also sound like that great of an idea. I'm not really going to play around that, but he could be going for Toxic Spikes because I dropped my Grounded Poison. Maybe he's just using it for T-Spikes. Greninja is probably a better option there. What he's tended to use this season is Swords Dance Mimikyu, which is very standard. He likes his Specs Greninja quite a bit. He runs Specs Greninja quite often. I'm expecting some sort of Rock Polish Z-move Cobalion. Makes the most sense against me because Mimikyu gets checked by Selly anyways. Although +2 Z Mimikyu could be something that he has up his sleeve. I'm expecting the Zapdos, Mimikyu, Greninja, Cobalion, Megalodios. Those 5 I think are coming 100% of the time. And then I think he could bring something like Empoleon, could bring something like Magmortar. I've seen him run Belly Drum Magmortar in the past. I would not put it past him to run Belly Drum Magmortar against me. I don't really think it's that good, but it could come. Snorlax is something that also could come, depends how scared he is of things. It could be a very valuable special wall for him, may not be as well. But essentially those 5 are the main 5, and then I think he fills in the last hole with Magmortar, Snorlax, or Empoleon. One of those 3 is kind of what I'm anticipating. So, in terms of my team, first up here is Celesteela, and I apologize for the sprites. I can't fix that. It's going with a Gen 5 sprite for some reason, even though I haven't changed my settings. Showdown updating with the Gen 8 things on Showdown has sort of like screwed with the sprites. You can see with Wigglytuff and Heracross it's the same, but then Kyurem-Black's Gen 6, and then Serp is Gen 5 again, and Rotom's Gen 6, so super strange. But starting with Celesteela, I'm running a mixed defensive set with Heavy Slam, Toxic, Leech Seed, and Air Slash. So just dual stab Toxic Seed, which I think actually puts on a lot of pressure against pretty much everything bar Zapdos, but I will get chip against the Zapdos one way or another. Obviously, I'm forced out by the Zapdos, but I have things that I can do besides that. So it's not like I'm just like completely sitting there, you know, doing nothing. This is a really good check to Shaman and the Mimikyu. It can be a decent check to the Greninja as well afterwards. It's a pretty good check against the Snorlax. It's a semi-decent check against the Megalodios, which is forced to run Thunderbolt to be able to beat my Celesteela. I don't think he can run like a stored power set anyways because I have a Spiritomb, but it's definitely forced to run something like that. I'm opting out of Earthquake. I don't think it's necessary, and I'd rather have Air Slash to actually beat the Shaman 1v1. If the Shaman does come for whatever reason, Celesteela can check it 9 times out of 10. So that's essentially the Celesteela set. In a nutshell, I was suggested an offensive set, which does look strong in this matchup. The issue that I have with it is that if it doesn't get the KO on something like Zapdos, then it puts itself in a weird spot, and it also relied on Superpower, which I wasn't a fan of, so I opted into a defensive set, which can check Mimikyu better, especially potentially a +2 Z Shadow Claw from Mimikyu. I can deal with that. Wigglytuff is next. This is designed to take on the Megalodios. It can also take on the Zapdos. It's my rocker for the week, which is going to be super helpful for me. Essentially just my Spidefmon. It loses to almost all of the physical offense on this team, but it's a Greninja and Megalodios switch in, which is pretty important here. I've got the Frisk there to scout out items on something like Gren, something like Zapdos, things of that nature. It's not really as useful as competitive, but I could also run competitive in case he does want to run webs. Maybe I'll just change that last second here, because competitive actually puts on a lot more pressure than Frisk would, and I don't really need to know the items because I can always scout items with the calc. So again, fully specially defensive. Wigglytuff's like base defense stats are pretty bad, but the HP makes up for that quite significantly, and this can pass really fat wishes into everything on the team. So that's Wiggly. Heracross is a genuine win condition in this game. If Zapdos dies and Mimikyu isn't there or something, I mean, honestly, like, Mega Horn close dual stab is just very spammable without Zapdos and Mimikyu around. So if I don't see Mimikyu because he thinks that Celesteela is way too big of a threat to it, then that is perfectly fine by me, and I don't have to worry about that shit at all. I've got Earthquake there as a general way to just hit the Empoleon and the Magmortar without lowering my stats potentially. And then Stone Edge is there specifically to hit the Zapdos. Again, this is a win condition late game, so I'm outpacing something specific. Magmortar with this speed investment, and that should cover most of his general Scarfers. Something like Cobalion or Shaman could definitely be Scarf options, but I don't think there was likely... Well, they could be likely, because they would actually still outspeed Alakazam. So, something to consider there, but as long as I'm in a position to be able to tank a Cobalion hit, then I will OHKO it with close combat. Kyurem-Black is next. I'm actually running 2 Scarfers this week, and I think it's kind of important that I have something... So, I've run into this matchup before, right, where I was the Zapdos in WWC, and I basically just Toxic Stalled Zach's team out, okay? And Zach had the Kyurem-Black, and it was Life Orb, and I didn't agree with that because it was wearing itself down and losing to that Zapdos set. So I'm not going to put myself in a position to lose the same way that I won with that Zapdos. And so I'm running the Scarf Kyurem-Black so that I can always have the pressure on the Zapdos. It's not going to be able to deal with any of that. Something worthy to note here, Stu tends to run Pressure Zapdos more than Static Zapdos. I don't know why. Maybe he just forgets to run Static. But throughout the season, that's something that I've noticed, is that he tends to run Pressure Dose more than Static, so I don't have to feel that bad about running a bunch of physical offense on this Kyurem, and Ice Beam should be able to cover that for the most part. Something to note here is that Outrage is very, very good in this matchup for me. Outrage is just like top tier against everything not named Mimikyu, as well as Cobalion and Empoleon. But I'm not running Earth Power for the Cobalion because I don't need to, because his other steel is weak to Electric. So the combination of like Outrage, Fusion Bolt, Ice Beam is enough for this team, and then Iron Head is only there for the Mimikyu. I will go through Disguise because of Terravolt and Okoet. With Max Attack here, I'm running enough speed for Magmortar as well. Unfortunately, it's just enough that I needed to run Jolly, and I couldn't run Adamant. But I get a little bit of bulk out of that, so that's perfectly fine. Serp is also a winning condition for me, depending on how things go. I'm just running a very offensive Superior, which is kind of the opposite of what I've done all season. Leaf Storm, Dragon Pulse, Hidden Power, Rock, and Synthesis. So Leaf Storm, obviously, I can boost on a lot of things here. Not a lot is weak to it necessarily, but I can boost on whatever wants to switch in, and then I have super effective coverage for almost everything. The only mon that can resist all of my moves is Cobalion, which I'm hoping I can deal with like Heracross plus Kyurem-Black or something, or just Heracross plus like Celesteela maybe, Heracross plus Rotom, something along those lines. But if Cobalion's not there, then a hole is opened, and Superior can hit everything else really, really well. Dragon Pulse with Dragonium Z at +2 will kill Mega Latias, which is the hope. I'm not entirely sure how much he knows about Superior, but he may switch in the Mega Latias thinking that I'm HP Fire, something along those lines. Otherwise, Dragonium Z is a nice nuke for Zapdos if I don't want to rely on Hidden Power Rock rolls. Hidden Power Rock is there for the Zapdos and the Magmortar and the Ariados, all three of which resist Leaf Storm naturally. So Hidden Power Rock is like super solid for that. Dragon Pulse is neutral coverage for the Shaman, and then I have Synthesis there to heal myself up if I need to. It's more reliable than Giga Drain, and another grass move just doesn't really help all that much here. Enough speed on here for the Mega Latias, max special attack, a little bit of HP, and then last but not least is the Rotom, physically defensive Rotom, designed to take on the Cobalion in theory, as well as a physical Magmortar. I'll be able to check the Belly Drum Magmortar set fairly easily with this. It does need to run Return to be able to beat me. It can't just rely on like Flame Charge Mach Punch. So it does have to be like Belly Drum, Flame Charge, Mach Punch, Return. In this one, rather than running like Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch shouldn't be enough at +6 to kill me, so it should be in range to pop my Papa Berry, and then I can Volt Switch out or whatever. I'm not running Water Stab, and there's not really a good reason for that. Mainly because I think I can just sort of Toxic Pain Split my way through something like a Donphan. Excuse me. Something like a Donphan that I would normally want to run the water coverage for, Donphan or Magmortar. Again, I don't think that both of those are coming, but that's just my stance on it. So it's more reliable as a Toxic Spreader. It can tank Mimikyu hits, physical Greninja hits, things of that nature. It can still tank Zapdos hits, so it's kind of the utility of the Rotom-Wash in this matchup. Now, in terms of what I'm not bringing, Darmanitan looked alright to me on paper. He does have some decent fire resist, but it was a better... Like, it always threatened the Cobalion, essentially, which was something I liked, and I could always just U-turn out on a Mega Latias switch in or whatever. Or Snorlax or whatever. It's not coming because I'm bringing Heracross and Kyurem-Black instead, and I think the combination of those two is better than Heracross Darm. That's just my opinion. Pillotswine could have been a bring. I could have brought it as a Zapdos check in quotations and had it as a rocker. It may or may not be better than the Rotom-Wash in this matchup, but I was extremely weak to the Cobalion, and I wanted to steal like a proper steel resist besides Celesteela, because I think that the Z move is going to kill either Celesteela or Rotom, and I would rather it kill Celesteela than Rotom, because I think Rotom can tank the Cobalion hits better afterwards with just like Papa Berry Pain Split shenanigans. Mega Alakazam is something I wanted to bring, but there is a lot going on here. So first of all, he's got 2 Shadow Sneak users and a Sucker Punch user, which I don't like. But the main thing is that I would need to rely on Focus Blast against quite a bit of this team. I need to have Shadow Ball, and I need to have Psyshock, so it's like 3 attacks for cover is like the best set against this team. I sort of toyed around with it in my head for a while, and I just thought that Serp might be better here. I may or may not regret that. Probably will, in all honesty. Spiritomb, I was considering bringing as the Mega Latias check instead of the Wigglytuff, but I wanted Rocks, and the Wish Pass was really helpful. Spiritomb could have checked like Snorlax or something too, which would have been useful, I guess. I'm not entirely sure how Infiltrator works with Disguise, and I didn't really want to test that, but I thought about like burning the Mimikyu or Shadow Sneaking it. Excuse me, bringing like a Roselli Berry Spiritomb and beating the Mimikyu that way, but I'm not sure how reliable that is. And then Ursaring, which actually definitely could have been a bring here, I just opted out of using because I didn't think that it was going to be reliable enough against the faster end of this team. The slower end of the team, I think Ursaring can pick on things like Donphan, Empoleon, Shaman, Snorlax, Mons. I think Ursaring excels against. But the faster end of this team, I think, just really picks on Ursaring. Specifically, the Cobalion, I think Ursaring is kind of just setup fodder for the most part for it, and I didn't really want to bring that as an offensive threat, so I'm relying on a weird combination of defense, dual Scarfers, and like an unreliable Mon in the Superior this game, but I'm hoping it's going to pay off. In all honesty, I've talked about wanting to win my own league for a while, but Stu's had a monster of a comeback season. He came in and replaced Phil last season and just like went off and almost got relegated, but also, pulled the team from the brink and brought it out of that position. And then this season he had an absolute tear of a start. He was like one game behind me for the beginning of the season when I was undefeated, and it's unfortunate that he fell all the way to 8th seed, but he's definitely capable of just beating me this game and making it to finals. So something to keep your eye out on there. I'm not going to elaborate too much more on that, and I'm just gonna let it be, and I will catch you guys for the match.